Story 1. The Silent Lodge. My best friend Mason and I had been planning our winter getaway for months. A remote lodge tucked away in the snow-covered peaks of Montana seemed like the perfect escape. It was advertised as an old hunter's cabin, completely secluded, with only a crackling fireplace for warmth. That was exactly what we wanted, a true winter retreat away from the world. On the first night, we settled in quickly, the isolation of the place setting in as the snowstorm outside howled against the walls. The only sounds were the occasional pop of burning wood and the wind shaking the shutters. Around midnight, Mason nudged me awake, whispering, "Did you hear that?" I listened, groggy at first. Then there it was, a soft creak, like someone shifting their weight on an old wooden floor. But that made no sense. There was no one else here. We checked the cabin, even stepping onto the porch, but saw only endless white. The next day, we decided to explore the nearby woods. As we trudged through knee-deep snow, Mason suddenly stopped, pointing. Just beneath a fir tree, something stuck out of the ice, an old leather-bound notebook. The pages were stiff with frost, but some writing was still legible. It watches from the trees. It waits for you to be alone. That night, neither of us could sleep. The silence inside the cabin was oppressive, like the air itself was holding its breath. Then the creaking sound returned, but this time, it was right outside our door. Mason and I sat frozen, staring at the handle, watching as it slowly turned. We bolted. Grabbing only our coats, we ran to the car, ignoring the footprints that now circled the cabin, footprints that weren't ours. As we sped away, I glanced back one last time. In the attic window, a figure stood, watching. Story 2. The Blizzard Stranger. It was the dead of winter when my husband and I got caught in a sudden blizzard while driving through upstate New York. The snow fell so thick, it was like driving into a wall of white. We could barely see a few feet ahead. That's when we saw him. A man standing in the middle of the road wearing nothing but a thin sweater and jeans, staring at us with wide, unblinking eyes. My husband swerved, barely missing him, and we skidded to a stop. I turned back to look, but he was gone. Shaken, we decided to continue slowly. After a few minutes, I glanced at the rearview mirror, and there he was, sitting in our back seat, his breath fogging up the glass. I screamed, and my husband nearly drove us off the road. But when we turned around, the back seat was empty. No footprints in the snow, no sign that anyone had been there. We drove all night, never stopping. When we reached the next town, we told a local about our encounter. The old man we spoke to paled immediately. "That's the Blizzard Stranger," he said. "Died in a storm years ago. Folks see him when they're close to the edge. Lucky you drove on. If you had stopped, you wouldn't be here to tell the tale." Story 3. The Frozen Ones. As a park ranger in Alaska, I've seen some terrifying things. But nothing compares to what I found in early February last year. A small group of hikers had gone missing. Their last known location was near Black Ridge Pass, a treacherous route known for sudden storms. After 3 days with no contact, I was sent to investigate. I found them. 5 people, standing perfectly still in a clearing, covered in a thick layer of ice. Their expressions were frozen in mid-scream, eyes wide in horror. It was as if they had been turned to statues in an instant. No signs of struggle, no injuries, just frozen. As I radioed for help, a gust of wind blew through the trees, and I swear I heard something whisper. It sounded like a word, but it was garbled, unintelligible. Then in the reflection of the ice, I saw something behind me. A figure, tall and shadowy, its face obscured by frost. I ran, not stopping until I was back at my station. When we returned with a team, the frozen hikers were gone. Only empty footprints remained. And to this day, when the wind blows through Black Ridge Pass, it carries a whisper, calling people deeper into the snow. These are the stories that still haunt me. The cold has a way of keeping secrets, of hiding things that should never be found. And if you ever find yourself alone in the snow, remember, some things are best left undisturbed.